All right. Okay, what's going on at this hour? Where are you right now? I questioned. You ask where I am? I'm on a spa vacation with Evelyn, Jack replied. Oh, I see, I responded with a mix of realization and frustration. I discovered everything when my husband lied to me. I'm Ava, a 29-year-old office worker married to Jack for 6 years. We share an 8-year-old daughter, Evelyn. The truth surfaced during a moment of family cooking. Evelyn, I'll help you, I said. Really? Then can you roll the hamburger patties like this? Evelyn asked. Yes, I'll do it, I affirmed. As we cooked together, Evelyn showcased her skills, creating personalized patties for each family member. The joyful cooking atmosphere, however, took a turn when Jack emerged from the bath. I made your hamburger, Daddy, Evelyn cheerfully announced, unaware of the tension in the air. I made your hamburger, Daddy, my husband's joyful response echoed through the kitchen. Really? I can't wait to eat it, he added, his happiness evident. We were spending our days seemingly as a very happy family, or at least that's what I thought. Both my husband and I were employed, but his workplace was closer to our home, and he had fewer overtime commitments. Consequently, I often relied on him to pick up our daughter from kindergarten. However, due to recent work commitments, he had been coming home late, and I found myself having to pick her up and take her home. I began to worry if Daddy didn't like me anymore, my daughter expressing her sadness on our way home from kindergarten. She missed him because he had been picking her up all this time, and his late-night arrivals meant there were days when he didn't get to see her face. Despite my breaking heart, I assured her that Daddy was working hard for her, and when he settled down, he would spend more time with her. But he's always late, Mommy, she said with a hint of disappointment. I continued to comfort her. Daddy is working very hard for Evelyn right now, but when he gets settled down, he will be able to spend a lot of time with you, really. Okay, I'll support him with Mommy, she agreed. I'll even cook for him. She was such a good girl, and I eagerly anticipated the day we could all eat together as a family again. However, a few months later, my husband's work commitments persisted. He continued to come home late, and the situation worsened as he started arriving at 1:55 a.m., or even worse, taking the first train home in the morning. Hey, are you sure it's just work? The growing uncertainty lingered in my mind. If you're just out drinking, I wish you'd come home and play with Evelyn. I can't stand it any longer, I complained to my husband. My daughter has been left alone by her father for a month, and she looks very sad, I added. But my husband didn't appreciate what I said, and he got upset. What's with that tone of voice? I attend company drinking parties for the sake of my family. It's terrible of you to accuse me of that. Whoa, okay, I'm sorry, but you have to understand that Evelyn is lonely because she doesn't get to play with her dad, I tried to explain. He fell silent and went straight to the bedroom, creating an awkward atmosphere between us. Later, I was informed by the company that I needed to go on a short business trip. Depending on the work situation, there were many things I needed to check in person, and it seemed I would have to stay at least 2 nights. If it was bad, it might be 3 nights. My immediate concern was what to do with my daughter. My parents lived far away, making it difficult for them to come. I would have to rely on my husband, but given how busy he had been lately, I didn't know if I could trust him with her. Despite my reservations, I had no choice but to ask him. So, I waited for him to come home. When he finally arrived, well past midnight, I wondered if he had been drinking as usual. Around 2 o'clock, I heard the door unlock. Welcome home, Ava. I didn't know you were still up. My husband expressed surprise, clearly not expecting me to be awake and waiting for him. I waited for you because I wanted to talk to you. Talk? My husband, clearly intoxicated, questioned. The moment he stumbled through the door, it was evident that he had been drinking. His face was flushed, but as he sat down at the dining table, he seemed to sober up, and his complexion turned pale. So, what did you want to talk about? It's not such a big deal, he slurred, looking at me. I hesitated for a moment, observing his unpredictable mood, then proceeded to tell him about my upcoming business trip. It's short notice, but I have to go on a business trip in 2 weeks on Friday. I'll need to stay at least 1 night, and if I have a lot of work, it might be 2 nights. Can you take care of Evelyn during that time? I know you're busy with your work, I explained apologetically. To my surprise, my husband looked relieved. Oh, that's totally fine, really. Are you okay at work? Of course I'm busy, but I should prioritize you and Evelyn, he replied. How about I take a day off and take Evelyn on an overnight hot spring trip? I haven't been able to spend time with her lately. I'm sure Evelyn would love that. I felt a sense of relief hearing his willingness to help and spend time with our daughter. I'm glad you said that. I knew you cared about our family. Until recently, I was worried about whether you really cared about us or not, but it seems that my fears were unfounded. The next day, on the way to drop my daughter off at kindergarten, I shared the news with her. What? Daddy and I can go on the hot spring trip together. My daughter's excitement filled the air, and her joy brought a smile to my face. Then came the day of the business trip. It was my first one since giving birth to Evelyn, but surprisingly, everything went smoother than expected. The people I met during the trip were cooperative, keeping everything in order for my review. The work progressed so well that I found myself finishing by 6 p.m. that day, thinking, if I'm already finished, I can go home today. I considered spending the first day at a manga cafe instead of staying at a hotel. Unsure if I would stay 2 nights or 3, I hadn't finalized my lodging plans to avoid cancellation fees. Now, with the work completed smoothly, I could make it home in time for the last train if I got a ticket. Deciding to enjoy a relaxing time at home, I hurriedly boarded the train. I envisioned my husband and daughter having a delightful meal at a hotel by now. The image of my daughter looking so happy warmed my heart. Yes, tomorrow morning I'll wake up early, clean the house, and surprise them both, I thought as I returned home around 10 p.m. I wondered why the light was still on in the living room. Could it be that my husband forgot to turn it off? With a critical look on my face, I entered the house. There I found my daughter curled up on the sofa crying. Oh, Evelyn, what's wrong? Mommy's here. Where's Daddy? My husband was nowhere to be seen, and my concern turned into frustration. I was so upset that I began bombarding my daughter with questions. Then she told me, Daddy left in the morning without me. What? What the hell is going on? What was your father thinking? Fury boiled inside me at my husband's incomprehensible behavior, but I had to calm her down first. I hugged her tightly. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I know you were lonely being alone so late at night. As I held her and gently stroked her head, my daughter, perhaps feeling relieved, started to drift into sleep in my arms. It seemed she was tired of being scared and nervous all the time. Carefully carrying her into the bedroom, I then returned to the living room and called my husband. Ava, why are you calling at this hour? Where are you now? His voice sounded irritated. I'm currently on a spa trip with Evelyn. Why are you whispering? You ask. Evelyn is already tired and asleep. I don't want to disturb her. Oh, I see, you reply. I'm sure she's sleeping, but she's not there, I explain. I pieced it all together when my husband lied to me. I was on the verge of losing my temper, but I managed to keep my composure. How's the trip going? You inquire. I'm having a great time. I wouldn't mind extending the stay for another night. The food is excellent and the hot springs are amazing, I respond. Well, why don't you stay one more night then? You suggest. I express my desire to do so, and my husband seems to struggle with the decision. However, you interject, asking if I'll come home after one night. I reassure you, but my husband hesitates. Then you'll be lonely all by yourself, so me and Evelyn will come back tomorrow, you propose. I suspect it's because if I arrive home first, I'll discover that he left her daughter at home. Aware of his thoughts, I decide to fabricate a story. I have a lot of work to do, and I'll be home later than planned. I'll have to stay another night. Don't worry about me. Enjoy your trip as long as you like, I say. Surprisingly, he doesn't question my lie. Really? Then I'll postpone it for one more night. Evelyn is very excited. I'll have to give her more, you declare. I haven't spent much time with my daughter lately. Daddy, make sure to call me when you know when you're coming home. My daughter's excited, you remind me. Perplexed, I inquire about what you're talking about. You explain that she was curled up and crying by herself. Suppressing the urge to yell, I hang up the phone, determined to ensure he faces consequences for the pain he's causing my daughter. I promptly call my parents to explain the situation. The next morning, I start packing and arrange for movers to expedite the process. Luckily, a company can come on short notice and my belongings are swiftly moved out. My daughter watches as many men come in and out of the house, giving me a puzzled look. Realizing I need to talk to her, I take a moment. Evelyn, I've decided not to live with your dad anymore. I don't want you to be sad. I'm quitting my job and going to live with your grandma and grandpa. This way, I can spend more time with you. If you come with me, you won't be able to see your dad anymore. What do you want to do? It feels harsh posing such a question to my 8-year-old daughter, but I value her opinion. She responds with a muffled voice, Will I never see my daddy again? If you really want to see him, I can arrange for you to see him once in a while, but he won't be able to live with us anymore, I explained gently. My daughter hasn't done anything wrong, and I want her to have the option to see him if she desires. However, considering he left his own daughter alone at home while he went on vacation, I doubt he'll prioritize time for her after the divorce. As I pondered these thoughts, my daughter seemed to have made up her mind. She looked at me with determination and said, "I'm going with you, Mommy. Daddy probably doesn't care about me." I recall crying and pleading with him, asking why he was leaving me, but he departed without offering any answers. It's disheartening that he would manipulate his 8-year-old daughter to justify his actions and go on vacation with his adulterer. He proves to be a lousy man, a lousy father, nothing more than trash below the bottom of the barrel. Reflecting on the situation, I regret leaving my daughter with him for a business trip. "Evelyn, I'm so sorry for making you so sad," I tell her, embracing her tightly as we prepare for the move. Regarding my husband, I leave the rest to others. With this in mind, I take my daughter and return to my parents' house. A few hours later, my husband calls in confusion. "Hey, why is your stuff missing and Evelyn's stuff too? What the hell is going on?" he demands. "Don't you know why?" I respond. "Evelyn's crying because her stuff is gone too. Do you still think you can lie to me after all of this? It's quite peculiar. Evelyn is currently savoring noodles crafted by my mother." "What? We're well aware that you abandoned your daughter for a trip with someone else. How could you leave an 8-year-old girl alone at home? You're not fit to be a father. If I hadn't returned on that day, you could have traumatized Evelyn for her entire life." My husband, realizing I'm already with our daughter, remains silent, unable to utter a word. "Regardless, you don't care about your daughter, leaving her alone just to pursue another woman. I can't coexist with you any longer. I demand a divorce." "Divorce? Oh no, please reconsider. I can't. I don't want to see you anymore." While my husband and I conversed over the phone, the doorbell incessantly rang. Oh God, who could it be at a time like this? My husband sounded irritated, yet I knew exactly who it was. "It seems they've arrived, Dad and Mom," I declared, hearing my husband's voice wince over the phone. A few seconds later, my father-in-law erupted in a yell. "What the hell are you doing?" I exclaimed, and within seconds, a loud noise resonated. Well, that's the beginning. I surmised that was the sound of him getting beaten up. In reality, my father-in-law had practiced judo for many years and was currently an advisor at a university. He cherished his granddaughter Evelyn deeply. So, when I disclosed my husband's infidelity and the fact that he left our daughter alone on a trip, my father-in-law was furious. He declared his intent to give my husband a beating, vowing to pummel the rotten guts out of him. Taking advantage of the situation, I decided to ask him for a favor. "What the hell do you think you're doing with your own daughter? I didn't raise you to be such an..." I could hear my stepfather's angry voice, his thoughts echoing repeatedly. Though we lived in an apartment, I was relieved it was on the first floor. Had there been people downstairs, they would have surely complained. Regardless, since we've already moved out, it doesn't concern me anymore. My father-in-law seemed to have put immense pressure on my husband, both physically and mentally. Subsequently, the divorce settlement proceeded smoothly. I naturally gained custody, and alimony along with child support was settled in a single lump sum. Remarkably, I managed to secure alimony from the adulterer's partner as well. My husband attempted to remarry the adulterer, but it turned out their affair was merely for her amusement. She found him too serious and opted out of marriage, ending the relationship. At work, he grapples with shame for committing adultery, facing disapproval from his parents, abandonment from his affair partner, and even his daughter left him. It's a fitting outcome. He truly deserves it. On the contrary, I am basking in happiness, spending quality time with my daughter at my parents' farmhouse. They're farmers, and I've been assisting them. My daughter relishes the fresh vegetables from the farm and embraces the abundance of nature around us. I am committed to prioritizing my daughter in my life. Leaving your young daughter alone on an adulterous trip is unforgivable. Reporting your husband to the police for such negligence should have been the course of action. I sincerely hope Evelyn isn't too heartbroken. Nevertheless, it's gratifying to witness your husband losing everything he had. Ava, I wish you continued happiness with your daughter.